Hey guys, Marco here from Aviator Live CS. Welcome back to my channel. And today from the city of Kiev in Ukraine, we are going to continue with this series of videos of a landing gear system. And today is going to be the last one. Today we are going to talk about non-normal checklist for the landing gear. So let's get started. Let's go to abnormal operations. And this is where we're going to talk about all these checklists. And some of them, they are quite extensive, they are long checklists, but we will try to read the most important things. Now, everything is going to be available here for you. You can go through the whole checklist and read it. So don't worry about it. You are going to have them here. So let's talk about the anti-skid inoperative non-normal checklist. The condition is an anti-skid system fault occurs. Caution, locked wheel protection is not available. And remember, we talked about this locked wheel protection in our previous video. So I will leave a link here in some place here in the corner, so you can click on it and you can review that video if you haven't done it yet. So first, auto brake select switch off. This switch goes to off. The auto brake system is inoperative. Number 2, do not arm the speed brakes for landing. Manually deploy the speed brakes immediately upon landing. Automatic speed brake extension may be inoperative. Number 3, check the non-normal configuration landing distance tables in the Performance in Flight QRH chapter or other approved source. Number 4, checklist complete except deferred items. So if we read this landing procedure review, use minimum braking consistent with runway length and conditions to reduce the possibility of a tire blowout. Do not apply the brakes until the nose wheel is on the ground and the speed brakes have been manually deployed. Brake initially using light steady pedal pressure. Increase pressure as ground speed decreases. Do not pump the brakes. Then we will continue with the descent checklist. Just remember here, auto brake off. Approach checklist, and then landing checklist, speed brake, down detent. Let's go to the next one, and it's auto brake disarm, which you can see the light here. Condition, the auto brake system disarms after being set. Choose one. On the ground, auto brake select switch off, and then we'll go to step 2. Choose one. Auto brake disarm light extinguishes. That's the end of the checklist. Auto brake disarm light stays illuminated. Do not take off, and that's the end of the checklist. If we are in flight, we'll go to step 3. Step 3 says auto brake select switch off, then reselect. Choose one. Auto brake disarm light stays extinguished. That's the end of the checklist. Auto brake disarm light illuminates again. Auto brake select switch off. Use manual brakes for landing. Go to step 5. Step 5, checklist complete except deferred items. Again, descent checklist, auto brake off. We complete the approach checklist, landing checklist. Now let's talk about the brake pressure indicator 0 psi. Remember that's here, that indication, you are going to see it here. Condition, the brake accumulator has no nitrogen pre-charge. Number 1, accumulator braking is not available. Note, if hydraulic systems indications are normal, brake operation is unaffected. And that's the end of the checklist. Now let's see what the gear disagree non-normal checklist says. Condition, the landing gear position disagrees with the landing gear lever position. Note, do not exceed the gear extend limit speed, 270 knots, Mach 0.82. Do not use FMC performance predictions with gear extended. Choose one. Landing gear lever is up. We'll go to step 5. Step 5 says choose one. All red and green landing gear indicator lights are illuminated, open and close the manual gear extension access door. Verify the door is fully closed. And then we go to step 6. Step 6 says landing gear lever down, then up. Choose one. All landing gear indicator lights extinguished. Landing gear lever off, and that's the end of the checklist. Any red landing gear indicator lights is illuminated. Then we have to go to step 8, which says flight with gear down increases fuel consumption and decreases climb performance. Refer to the gear down performance tables in the performance in flight section. Okay, if we check the other option, it says any other combination of landing gear indicator lights is illuminated. We'll go to step 8, and that's the end of the checklist. Now, if we read the other option here, it says landing gear lever is off. We'll go to step 2. Choose one. Landing gear lever moved to the off position after takeoff. We'll go to step 3. Landing gear lever up. Choose one. All red and green landing gear indicator lights are extinguished. The landing gear lever should be kept in the up position to keep the landing gear retracted, and that's the end of the checklist. The other option says any red landing gear indicator light is illuminated. We'll go to step 8, which we already read here, and that will be the end of the checklist. Okay, the last option we have here, it says landing gear lever is down. We have to go to step 9, which says check landing gear indicator lights. Note, if a green landing gear indicator light is illuminated on either of the center main panel or the overhead panel, the related landing gear is down and locked. Choose one. All landing gear indicate down and locked, and one or more red landing gear indicator lights are also illuminated. Go to step 11. It says verify landing gear lever is pushed in and fully in the down detent. Choose one. Step 12. All red landing gear indicator lights extinguished. That's the end of the checklist. One or more red landing gear indicator lights stay illuminated. Ground proximity gear inhibit switch, gear inhibit, land normally, and that's the end of the checklist. Now, if we check the other option, any landing gear is not down and locked, we'll have to go to the manual gear extension checklist on page 1418, which we're going to review in a few minutes. Now let's review the landing gear lever jammed in the up position. First, let's see what the flight crew training manual says. The landing gear could be jammed in the up position due to a mechanical jam of the landing gear handle, or if the landing gear selector valve is stuck in the up position. Either condition results in the landing gear remaining pressurized in the up position. The landing gear lever jammed in the up position non-normal checklist has the crew attempt to bypass the solenoid linkage by pulling the landing gear override trigger. If the landing gear cannot be extended due to a mechanical jam of the landing gear handle, this way resolve the jam. If this action does not result in the landing gear lever moving to the down position and all landing gear indicating down and locked, the landing gear is most likely jammed in the up position because the landing gear selector valve is stuck in the up position. In this case, the crew must pull the manual gear extension handles to release the up locks and allow the gears to extend. Due to system redesign in the 737NG, there is no requirement to depressurize either hydraulic system as we required in the earlier 737s. So, let's review the checklist. Condition: the landing gear lever will not move from the up position. Note: start this checklist only when ready to extend the gear for landing. Once the gear is extended, do not retract. Landing gear override trigger, pull. Landing gear lever, down. Choose one. Landing gear lever moves to the down position. We'll go to step 4. Check landing gear indicator lights. Note: if a green landing gear indicator light is illuminated on either the center main panel or the overhead panel, the related landing gear is down and locked. Choose one. All landing gear indicate down and locked. Plan to land at the nearest suitable airport, and that's the end of the checklist. one or more landing gear do not indicate down and locked, go to the manual gear extension checklist on page 1418. If the landing gear lever does not move to the down position, we'll go to step 6. Step 6 says nose wheel steering switch, verify normal. Nose wheel steering is not available. Warning, do not use alternate nose wheel steering because the landing gear may retract on the ground. Manual gear extension handles, all, pull. The up lock is released when the handle is pulled to its limit. The related red landing gear indicator light illuminates, indicating up lock released. Note, with the landing gear lever in the up or off position, the red landing gear indicator lights will stay illuminated. 8. Check landing gear indicator lights. Note, if a green landing gear indicator light is illuminated on either the center main panel or the overhead panel, the related landing gear is down and locked. Choose one. All landing gear indicate down and locked. We'll go to step 10, which says checklist complete except defer items. The defer items, so we'll complete the descent checklist, approach checklist, additional defer item, ground proximity gear inhibit switch, gear inhibit, and then the landing checklist will make sure the gear is down 3 green. Note, nose wheel steering is not available. And again, warning, do not use alternate nose wheel steering because the landing gear may retract on the ground. Now, if we come back here and we read the next option, one or more landing gear do not indicate down and locked, we'll go to the partial or all gear up landing checklist on page 1420. Okay, next one is the landing gear lever will not move up after takeoff. Condition, the landing gear lever cannot be moved to the up position due to one of the following: failure of the landing gear lever lock solenoid, failure of the air ground system, failure of the ground spoiler interlock valve to close. Note, do not use FMC performance predictions. Number 1, landing gear lever down. Number 2, retract the flaps on schedule. Number 3, choose one. Intermittent cabin altitude configuration warning horn stay silent. And the takeoff config lights, if installed and operative, do not illuminate after the flaps are fully retracted and the thrust levers are advanced beyond the vertical position. Note, this indicates a failure of the landing gear lever lock solenoid. We'll go to step 4. It says landing gear override trigger pull, landing gear lever up. After landing gear retraction is complete, landing gear lever off, continue normal operation, and that's the end of the checklist. If the intermittent cabin altitude configuration warning horn sounds or the takeoff config lights, if installed and operative, illuminate when the flaps are fully retracted, note, this indicates either a failure of the air ground system or a failure of the ground spoiler interlock valve to close. Do not retract the gear. Go to step 7. Step 7 says landing gear takeoff warning cutoff circuit breaker pull. Note, the intermittent cabin altitude configuration warning horn may still sound, and the takeoff config lights, if installed and operative, may still illuminate depending on thrust lever and flap position. Caution, do not use the speed brakes in flight. Plan to land at the nearest suitable airport. Do not arm the auto brake for landing. Use manual braking. Do not arm the speed brakes for landing. Manually deploy the speed brakes immediately upon landing. Checklist complete except defer items. So the defer items, check the auto brake is off. We'll complete approach checklist, gear down verification, landing gear lever verify down, landing checklist, speed brake down detent, landing gear down previously verified. Note, manually deploy the speed brakes immediately upon touchdown. Use manual braking. And that's the end of the checklist. Okay, next one, manual gear extension. Condition one of these occurs. Any landing gear is not down and locked. When the landing gear lever is down, the landing gear lever is jammed in the off position. Note, If a green landing gear indicator light is illuminated on either the center main panel or the overhead panel, the related landing gear is down and locked. Landing gear lever off, if possible. Manual gear extension handles affected gear. Pull. The up lock is released when the handle is pulled to its limit. The related red landing gear indicator light illuminates, indicating up lock released. And remember, this is what we have in the flight deck, the floor, and this is how the handles look. Number 3, wait 15 seconds after the last manual gear extension handle is pulled. Landing gear lever down if possible. 4, check landing gear indicator lights. Note, if the landing gear lever is in the off position, the red landing gear indicator lights will also be illuminated. Number 5, choose one. All landing gear indicate down and locked. We'll go to step 6. Landing gear lever is in the down position. Land normally. That's the end of the checklist. Landing gear lever is in the off position. Ground proximity gear inhibit switch. Gear inhibit. Land normally. Note, nose wheel steering is not available. And that's the end of the checklist. The other option here, one or more landing gear do not indicate down and locked. Go to the partial or all gear up landing checklist on page 1420. Now let's talk about it, the partial or all gear up landing. So before we continue and review this checklist, the FCTM has a lot of information about the partial gear up landing. I highlighted here some things I believe are important. However, I encourage you to read the whole thing. You are going to find very useful information here. And also, I want to show you what the MRG says about this situation here. Again, I want to thank Captain Pat Boone for allowing me to use some extracts of this app, which, if you don't have it, guys, go and check it out. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. I think it's very useful when you are getting ready for an initial or even recurrent simulator. So here you can read the nose gear in up, both main landing gear in up, all gear up or partially extended, one main landing gear in up. So read it. I'm pretty sure you are going to find very interesting information here as well. So let's go and read the checklist. It says, condition, all landing gear are not down and locked after attempting manual gear extension. Choose one. Manual gear extension has been attempted. We'll go to step 2. Brief the crew and passengers on emergency landing and evacuation procedures. Consider burning off fuel to reduce touchdown speed. Plan a flaps 40 landing. Set VREF 40. Landing gear oral warn circuit breaker pull. This prevents the landing gear warning horn with gear retracted and landing flap selected. The flight deck chime for an incoming call from the cabin crew is unavailable. 7. Flight control auto speed brake circuit breaker pull. This prevents inadvertent deployment of ground spoilers after landing. 8. Do not arm the auto brake for landing. Use manual braking. 9. Do not arm the speed brake for landing. 10. Checklist complete except defer items. Defer items will complete the descent checklist. Remember, it will be VREF 40. Approach checklist. Landing procedure review. Do not extend the speed brakes unless stopping distance is critical. When stopping distance is critical, extend the speed brakes after all landing gear, the nose or the engine nacelle have contacted the runway. Do not use the thrust reversers unless stopping distance is critical. Turn all fuel pump switches off just before the flare. After stopping, do the evacuation checklist if needed. Additional defer items: APU switch off, ground proximity gear inhibit switch, gear inhibit. When on approach, engine bleed air switches off. This ensures the airplane is depressurized at touchdown. Then we complete landing checklist. Speed brake down to 10, landing gear down, flaps 40, green lights, and that's the end of the checklist. Now, if the manual gear extension has not been attempted, go to the manual gear extension checklist on page 1418. Okay, guys, so to complete this normal operation from the landing gear, let's read something the FCTM says about tire failure during or after takeoff and landing on a flat tire. When a tire failure is suspected during takeoff, the landing gear can be retracted normally. With well-designed features and automatic wheel braking prevent damage from a failed tire. If the landing gear lever cannot move to up, the gear lever will not move up non-normal checklist as soon as practical. If the crew suspects a fire failure during takeoff, the air traffic service facilities serving the departing airport should be advised of the potential for tire pieces remaining on the runway. The crew should consider continuing to the destination unless there is an indication that other damage has occurred. Non-normal engine indications, engine vibrations, hydraulic system failures, or leaks. Continuing to the destination will allow the airplane weight to be reduced normally and provide the crew an opportunity to plan and coordinate their arrival and landing when the workload is low. Landing on a flat tire. Boeing airplanes are designed so that the landing gear and remaining tires have adequate strength to accommodate a flat nose gear tire or main gear tire. When the pilot is aware of a flat tire prior to landing, use normal approach and flare techniques. Avoid landing overweight and use the center of the runway. Use differential braking as needed for directional control. With a single tire failure, towing is not necessary unless unusual vibration is noticed or other failures have occurred. If uncertain whether a nose tire or a main tire has failed, slowly and gently lower the nose wheels to the runway and do not use auto brakes. Differential braking may be required to steer the airplane. Use idle or higher reverse thrust as needed to stop the airplane. Okay, guys, that's the end of the video for today. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed to my channel yet, please do it now. And if you believe these videos could be useful for somebody else, please share them. And that's going to help me a lot to grow the channel. Next week, we will continue with the Boeing 737 systems review. Until then, guys, take care and hope to see you soon.